building a new cultural identity.
Welcome back to Integration. Joining me in studio right now is Member of Parliament for the Liberal Party, Etobicoke North, Kirsty Duncan. Kirsty, welcome.
Thanks so much, Hoden. Joy to be here.
I'm so glad that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. One of the things that I'm so excited about sharing with our audience is your commitment to the Somali community and what you've done in Etobicoke North.
I love the community. As I've said, you know, it's where I'm born and raised. And I grew up with my friends from the Somali community, and I was included in community events. I learned the poetry, I learned the singing. I know parts of the anthem, actually.
Really?
I do.
Can we hear some of that, please?
I don't
that
think.
would be interesting. Just a little bit. Do you know Somalia Hanolato, right?
I do know Somalia Hanolato. Somalia Hanolato, Canada Hanolato. And both the same national day, by the way.
Exactly. July 1st.
July 1st.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that. I'm very impressed that you know so much about our culture and the people of this great society.
Great society.
So I wanted to kind of find out exactly what you've done. And I know that you've done a lot of advocacy on behalf of this community in Ottawa. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. In Ottawa, what we've focused on, and this has been from the community, it's been community driven by organizations like Positive Change and the Loyan Foundation. I don't have to tell this community that my warm, loving Somali community left a war-torn country to come to a peaceful country, and they've lost their children to violence. There's been 50 deaths of young Somali Canadian men since 2006. Where is the outrage? Many of these deaths have gone uninvestigated. You know, I go to a community meeting in Etobicoke North, and it's 100 people, and there are 4 moms, grieving moms, who come up and say, I'm the mother of. No one should ever go to a meeting where 4 mothers have lost their sons. So I, for the almost past year, have been pushing the federal government to take real action on this issue. We want to end the violence. We're losing our children. And this is not a Somali problem. This is a tragedy for all Canadians. So, you know, I've gone to the ministers, I've written letters, I've asked long written questions, I've written several articles that have been published in national newspapers to highlight this issue. I had a breakfast, and I invited all MPs and all senators. I invited them to hear from the community on Parliament Hill so that they would want to fight for this issue. They would want to fight for Somali Canadians. And we even had a vigil on Parliament Hill. I will continue to keep fighting. I'm glad that my party is backing me and that the Liberal Party is fighting for this. What I am disappointed about, this is not a partisan issue. Our children are dying, and we've got to stop the violence. Where are the other parties? Why aren't we hearing from them?
Interesting. That's a good question. Now, one of the things that you represent the largest population of Somalis in Canada, in Rexdale.
I do.
And what are the other challenges that you found this community faces that you've brought to the attention of the government?
Our youth. Our youth work very hard. And, you know, when I was at the university, I had many, many young women from the Somali community who are graduates. And they've worked hard, and they should be able to get work. Well, some of them have been out of work for 2 years. And I do politics differently. I help people find jobs. I was able to get a $500,000 job program for our community. That's not easy when you're in opposition. I went to all the ministers. I lobbied them. I said, my youth deserve the same opportunities as the rest of Canada. And they're not getting those jobs. So we got this jobs program. So I help whenever I can with the youth programs, with the athletic programs, and I pay for that out of my own pocket. Another issue we face is child hunger. And for the past...
Right here in Etobicoke? In Toronto?
In Toronto, 40% of elementary students go to school hungry.
Yes.
62% of secondary students. And I think it's unconscionable. In a country as wealthy as Canada, any child goes to school hungry. Hungry children cannot learn. And 169 other countries feed their children. And I've been part of an organization for 20 years that feeds, we now feed 140,000 children every morning in Toronto.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, you as a politician, number one, didn't start out as a politician.
I did not. I'm
your
the antithesis.
Yeah, your background is in science, and I'm always impressed. You're a woman scientist. On top of that, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, sure. Yes, I have a different background for politics, but I always want to serve, and I mean serve, the community where I'm born and raised. I left a job I loved. I loved teaching. I taught big classes of 500 students, and I loved my research. I consulted, well, as scientist, I consulted to Environment Canada. I do a lot of work for the United Nations in terms of the United Nations Development Program, and I'm one of 12 from around the world, and we try and reduce disasters around the world. For example, like the awful famine that hit Somalia a couple of years ago. So that is my background, and many years ago, people don't know this, I led an expedition to the Arctic, 500 miles from the
Right, and you
north.
wrote a book about that.
I did write a book about it, and I took 17 men to the Arctic.
Amazing.
And they're junior by 25 years, the world's leading scientists. But I had always dreamed of serving my community. I'm lucky. I get to serve the community where I'm born and raised, but to leave the life of science and the work I've done for all those years, the decision was because this is what I've always wanted. And I feel I get to serve, and we do politics differently in my office.
How do you say? How so?
Well, for example, I run a clothing bank from downstairs. So when a newcomer comes and it's minus 35 degrees, I can run downstairs and say, "Sir, would you like a jacket?" When someone comes in, I had a person come in wanting a job, but they were missing the top 4 teeth. I was able to get them free dental work. That might not always happen, but I try.
So politics from a humanistic
From
way.
a humanistic
way.
Yeah, from my youth group.
That's refreshing.
Well, we hope so, because
Yeah.
that's what politics is supposed to be about.
Right.
It's supposed to be about serving. My youth group ran a free weekly homework club. They raised $9,000 for Haiti. $9,000. We're the fifth, proudly, the fifth most diverse riding in the country. But poverty is an issue, and for us to raise $9,000, it shows you
It's a big
how
accomplishment.
it
Yeah.
was a big accomplishment. So we do politics differently.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Now, this community that you serve, particularly Somalis in Rexdale, is growing in Canada, and they're going to be growing in the political process. What advice do you have for the people that want to get involved in politics?
Come see me. Come see me. I will give you ideas. I will give you ideas how to get your voice heard in Parliament. There's many things we can do together. We can help write motions for Parliament. We can help write bills. We can do petitions, as I said, in fighting to get action to stop the violence. The community has gathered over 1,000 signatures calling on the government to take action. I can host breakfasts up on Parliament Hill like I did before, again, around the issue of government take action, help us stop the violence.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really enjoyed talking to you, and very impressive life you've led, and thank you for the service that you do for the community.
Oh, then thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this important television show. It's important for Toronto, but it's important for Canada. Mahat Sinik.
No.